She was always alone on Christmas, no family, no children, just silence and snow. But this year, a stranger chose her. A Korean single father with 4 daughters who saw something in her no one else did. She thought it was fate. She thought it was love. She didn't know he was hiding a truth that would destroy her. This is the story of the woman who survived every Christmas alone, until the one that changed everything. And the secret? It was darker than she ever imagined. Hello, everyone. I'm back with another Afro-Korean story that will stay with you long after it ends. Before we begin, please help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means everything. Now, let's dive into this beautiful journey. And don't forget to subscribe. The grocery store smelled like cinnamon and regret. Amara stood in the baking aisle, staring at flour she wouldn't buy. 32 years old, alone again. Christmas Eve stretched ahead like an empty road, and she had learned not to fight it anymore. Loneliness wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. It was this, standing under fluorescent lights pretending to need things. She reached for a bag of sugar, and that's when she heard it. Crying. Not loud, not theatrical, just the soft, broken sound of a child trying to be brave. Amara turned. 4 girls stood near the end of the aisle. The youngest, maybe 6, was clutching a stuffed reindeer, tears streaming down her face. The oldest, 12, held her shoulders back like she was carrying the weight of the world. The 2 middle ones stood close, frozen, unsure. And behind them, a man, Korean, mid-30s, tall, composed. But his eyes looked like he hadn't slept in years. He knelt in front of the youngest girl, his voice low, steady. "We'll find another one, sweetheart. I promise." But the girl shook her head, clutching the reindeer tighter. "It's not the same, Daddy. It's not the same." Amara's chest tightened. She didn't know why she moved. She didn't know why it mattered. But before she could stop herself, she was walking toward them, her voice soft, careful. "Excuse me." The man looked up, and something in the air shifted. His eyes were dark, guarded, but there was something beneath the surface, something raw. He stood slowly, and for a moment, they just looked at each other. Strangers. 2 people who had no reason to speak. "I'm sorry," Amara said quietly. I heard her crying." The oldest daughter stepped forward, protective. "We're fine." But the man raised a hand gently, and the girl went still. He looked at Amara again, and this time, there was something softer in his gaze. Something tired. "She lost her favorite ornament," he said. His voice was deep, controlled, but it carried weight. "We've been looking everywhere. She's taking it hard." Amara glanced at the little girl, who was still sniffling, her face pressed into the reindeer. And without thinking, she crouched down, meeting the child at eye level. "What did it look like?" she asked gently. The girl hesitated, then whispered, "A star, with a rainbow inside." Amara smiled. "That sounds beautiful." The girl nodded, her lip trembling, and Amara made a decision she couldn't explain. "What if," she said softly, "we made a new one together?" The girl blinked. "You can do that?" "I think so," Amara said. "I'm pretty good at making things." The youngest looked up at her father, hope flickering in her eyes, and the man, this stranger, looked at Amara like she had just done something impossible. "You don't have to," he began. "I know," Amara said, standing, "but I want to." Silence. The oldest daughter narrowed her eyes, suspicious. The middle 2 exchanged glances, but the youngest, she smiled. Small, fragile, real. And the man exhaled, something unraveling in his chest. "Thank you," he said quietly. Amara nodded, and just like that, her empty Christmas became something else entirely. His name was Jin. They exchanged numbers in the parking lot, the cold air biting at their faces. He was polite, careful, like he had learned to keep the world at arm's length. But when he looked at his daughters, something softened, something broke through. "We live nearby," he said. "If you're serious about helping Hana." "I am," Amara said. He studied her for a moment, like he was trying to understand why. And maybe he couldn't. Maybe she couldn't either. But when he finally nodded, it felt like the beginning of something neither of them could name. "Tomorrow," he said. "If that works." "Tomorrow," Amara repeated. And as she watched him load his daughters into a sleek black car, she realized something. For the first time in years, she wasn't dreading Christmas. She was curious. His house was not what she expected. Amara stood at the front door, holding a bag of craft supplies, and stared. The estate stretched out like something from a magazine. Tall windows, stone paths, a garden that looked like it had been designed by architects, not chance. Jin opened the door before she could knock. "You came," he said. There was something in his voice, relief maybe, or surprise. "I said I would," Amara replied. He stepped aside, and she entered a world that felt too big, too quiet. The foyer was marble and light, but it didn't feel warm. It felt like a place where people lived carefully, like every step mattered. "They're in the living room," Jin said, leading her through the house. And when they turned the corner, Amara saw them. 4 girls, sitting on a massive couch, staring at her like she was an equation they couldn't solve. The youngest, Hana, lit up immediately. "You came!" But the oldest, Minji, crossed her arms. "Why?" Amara smiled softly. "Because I promised." Minji's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Jin cleared his throat. "This is Amara. She's here to help Hana with the ornament." The middle daughters, Sora and Gia, whispered to each other, their eyes curious but cautious. And Amara realized something. These girls didn't trust easily. They had learned not to. They worked at the dining table. Amara spread out glitter, glue, ribbons, and clear glass ornaments. Hana sat beside her, eyes wide, hands hovering over the materials like they were treasure. "Can we really make it?" Hana whispered. "We can try," Amara said. And slowly, carefully, they began. Hana's small hands struggled with the glue, so Amara guided her, her voice low and patient. The other girls drifted closer, pretending not to care, but Amara saw them watching. Jin stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. But his eyes never left her. "Why are you doing this?" Minji asked suddenly. Amara looked up. The oldest daughter stood at the edge of the table, her face hard, her voice sharp. "Because it's Christmas," Amara said simply. "That's not a reason." "Maybe not," Amara said, "but it's mine." Minji's eyes narrowed. "You don't know us." "Not yet," Amara agreed. Silence, and then Sora, the quiet one, spoke. "Do you have kids?" Amara's hands stilled. "No," she said softly. "Why not?" Gia asked, genuinely curious. Amara hesitated, and then she said the truth. "I never had the chance." The room went quiet. Even Minji looked away. And Jin, he stepped forward, his voice low. "Girls, that's enough." But Amara shook her head. "It's okay." She met Minji's eyes. "I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm just here because your sister needed help, and I wanted to help." Minji's jaw worked, and then slowly, she sat down. Not close, but closer. And Amara went back to the ornament. By the time they finished, the sun was setting. The ornament hung from Amara's fingers, catching the light. It wasn't perfect. The glitter was uneven, the ribbons slightly crooked. But inside the glass, colors swirled, red, gold, blue, and when the light hit it just right, it looked like a tiny universe. Hana gasped. "It's beautiful." "It's ours," Amara said softly, and Hana threw her arms around her. Amara froze, and then, slowly, she hugged her back. When she looked up, Jin was watching. His expression was unreadable. But his eyes were full of something she couldn't name. Gratitude, longing, fear. "Thank you," he said quietly. Amara nodded, and as she stood to leave, Minji spoke. "Will you come back?" Amara turned, surprised. The oldest daughter looked at her, guarded but genuine, and Amara realized she wanted to. "If you'll have me," she said. Minji didn't smile, but she nodded, and that was enough. She came back, not the next day, but the day after that. And then again, and again. At first, it was just to help with small things, fixing Gia's broken bracelet, teaching Sora how to braid her hair, reading to Hana before bed. But slowly, carefully, Amara became part of something she didn't know she needed. A family, not hers, but close enough. Jin watched from a distance, always present, but never intrusive. He was careful with her, like she was something fragile. And maybe she was. Maybe they both were. "Why do you keep coming back?" he asked one evening. They were standing in the kitchen, the girls asleep upstairs. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt heavy. Amara looked at him. "Because they need someone. And you?" She hesitated. "Maybe I need them too." Jin's jaw tightened. He looked away, his hands gripping the edge of the counter. "You don't know what you're walking into." Then tell me," Amara said. But he didn't. He just shook his head, his voice low, rough. "You should go." Amara's chest tightened. "Jin, please." And the way he said it, broken, desperate, made her stop. She left. But she came back. It was Minji who told her the truth. Not all of it, but enough. They were sitting on the porch, the winter air biting, the stars scattered overhead. Minji had been quiet all evening, her usual sharpness dulled. "Our mom died," she said suddenly. Amara went still. 2 years ago," Minji continued, her voice flat. "Car accident. Daddy doesn't talk about it. None of us do." Amara's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." Minji shrugged, but her eyes were wet. "Everyone says that." "I know," Amara said softly, "but I mean it." Minji looked at her, really looked at her. "Why do you care?" "Because you matter," Amara said. And Minji broke. Not loud, not dramatic, just tears, silent and endless. And Amara pulled her close, holding her like she was her own. "I'm so tired," Minji whispered. "I'm so tired of pretending we're okay." "You don't have to pretend with me," Amara said, and Minji clung to her like she was drowning. Jin found them like that. He stood in the doorway, frozen, his expression unreadable. And when Minji finally pulled away, wiping her eyes, she looked at her father. "She knows," Minji said quietly. Jin's face went pale. "Minji, she should know," Minji said, standing. "She's been here every day. She's been more here than anyone." And then she walked inside, leaving them alone. Amara stood slowly, her heart pounding. Jin looked at her, and for the first time she saw it. The grief, the guilt, the weight he carried every single day. "I didn't ask you to come back," he said, his voice raw. "I didn't want this." "I know," Amara said. "You don't belong here." "Maybe not," she said, "but I'm here anyway." Jin's hands clenched. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand," Amara said, stepping closer. "Stop pushing me away and just talk to me." And Jin, this man who had built walls around himself so high no one could climb them, finally cracked. "I can't," he whispered. "If you stay, you'll get hurt." "Why?" Amara demanded. But he didn't answer. He just turned and walked away. And Amara stood there, alone, her heart breaking for a man she barely knew. But one thing was clear. She wasn't leaving. Not yet. Not until she understood. The days that followed felt like walking on glass. Amara came back. She always came back. But something had shifted between them. Something unspoken and dangerous. Jin watched her with his daughters, watched her laugh with Hana, watched her braid Sora's hair, watched her challenge Minji's sharp walls with gentle persistence. And every time their eyes met across the room, the air grew heavier. He was terrified of her, not because she was cruel, but because she was kind. And kindness, in his world, was a luxury he couldn't afford. "You're different with her," Minji said one morning. They were in his study, the door closed, the house quiet. Jin looked up from his laptop, his expression carefully neutral. "What do you mean?" Minji crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. At 12, she was too wise for her age, too observant, too much like him. "You smile more," she said simply. "When she's here." Jin's jaw tightened. "Minji." "I'm not saying it's bad," Minji interrupted. "I'm just saying, it's different." She paused, her eyes searching his face. "Do you like her?" Jin went still. The question hung in the air like smoke, and he didn't know how to answer it, because the truth was complicated. The truth was dangerous. It doesn't matter, he said finally. Why not? Because it can't happen. Minji frowned. Why? And Jin looked at his daughter, this girl who had been forced to grow up too fast, who had lost her mother and learned to survive without falling apart, and he couldn't lie to her. Because I don't deserve her, he said quietly. Minji's expression softened. Daddy, and neither do you girls, he continued, his voice rough. She deserves better than this, better than us. That's not true, Minji said, stepping forward. She chose to be here. She keeps choosing us. For now, Jin said. But when she learns the truth... He stopped himself. Minji's eyes narrowed. What truth? But Jin shook his head, turning back to his laptop. Go check on your sisters. Minji didn't move. Daddy, what aren't you telling me? Minji, please. And the way he said it, broken, pleading, made her stop. She left, but the question lingered. What truth? Amara felt it too. The distance, the walls, the way Jin looked at her like she was both salvation and destruction. She didn't understand it. But she felt it in her bones, this pull, this impossible thing growing between them. And the more time she spent with his daughters, the harder it became to ignore. Why don't you have a family? Gia asked one afternoon. They were making cookies, flour dusting the counters, the kitchen warm and alive. Gia stood on a stool beside her, her small hands pressing cookie cutters into dough. Amara paused. I just never did. But you're so good at this, Sora said, watching from the table. You should have kids. Amara's chest tightened. It's not that simple. Why not? Hana asked, her voice innocent. And Amara looked at these 4 girls, these beautiful, complicated, grieving girls, and she told them the truth. Because I was always waiting, she said softly, waiting for the right person, the right time, and I waited so long that I forgot I was allowed to stop waiting. The girls went quiet, and then Minji, who had been silent in the doorway, spoke. You're not waiting anymore, she said. Amara turned, surprised. Minji's eyes were steady, serious. You're here, with us. That's not waiting. And Amara realized she was right. For the first time in years, she wasn't waiting. She was living. That night, Jin found her on the porch. She was sitting on the steps, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the stars. The cold bit at her skin, but she didn't move, didn't want to. You'll freeze out here, Jin said quietly. Amara looked up. He stood in the doorway, his silhouette framed by warm light, his expression unreadable. I'm okay, she said. He hesitated. And then he stepped outside, sitting beside her. Not close, but close enough. They sat in silence for a long time, and then Jin spoke. You should stop coming here. Amara's heart sank. Why? Because you're getting attached, he said, his voice low. And so are they. Is that a bad thing? Yes. Why? Amara demanded, turning to face him. Why is it so terrible that I care about them? That they care about me? Jin's jaw clenched. Because it won't last. How do you know? Because nothing does, he said, his voice breaking. Everything ends. Everything falls apart. And when it does, they'll be the ones who suffer. Amara stared at him. You're not talking about me. You're talking about her. Jin flinched, and Amara understood. Your wife, she said softly. You're afraid I'll leave like she did. She didn't leave, Jin said, his voice raw. She was taken. I know, Amara said, but I'm not her. Jin looked at her, and for the first time she saw it. The fear, the grief, the guilt that lived in every breath he took. You don't understand, he whispered. If I let you in, if I let myself feel this, and something happens to you, then you'll survive, Amara said firmly. Like you survived before. Like your daughters survived. I don't want to survive, Jin said, his voice breaking. I want to stop hurting. And Amara reached for his hand. He froze, but he didn't pull away. Then stop fighting me, she whispered. Stop pushing me away. Let me help you. Jin closed his eyes, and a single tear slipped down his cheek. I don't know how, he said. Then we'll figure it out together, Amara said. And for the first time, Jin didn't argue. He just held her hand and let himself hope. The shift was subtle but undeniable. Jin stopped fighting. Not completely, not dramatically, but enough. Enough that when Amara came over, he stayed in the room. Enough that when she laughed with his daughters, he smiled. Enough that when their hands brushed in the hallway, he didn't pull away. And Amara felt it, this fragile, impossible thing growing between them. But she also felt the secret. It lived in the way he looked at her, like she was light and shadow all at once. It lived in the way he hesitated before speaking, like every word was a risk. It lived in the silences that stretched too long, too heavy. Something was wrong, and she needed to know what. Tell me about her, Amara said one evening. They were alone in the living room, the girls asleep upstairs, the house wrapped in quiet. Jin sat across from her, a glass of wine in his hand, his expression guarded. Who? He asked, though he knew. Your wife. Jin's jaw tightened. Why? Because she's still here, Amara said gently. In every corner of this house, in every choice you make, and if I'm going to keep coming back, I need to understand. Jin looked away, his hands gripping the glass so hard it might shatter. Her name was Yuna, he said finally. She was. Everything. Smart, kind, strong. She made me better. His voice cracked. And I couldn't save her. Amara's throat tightened. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? Jin said, his voice bitter. I was supposed to protect her. I was supposed to keep her safe. And I failed. You didn't fail, Amara said firmly. You loved her. And she knew it. Jin looked at her, his eyes red, broken. How do you know? Because your daughters know it, Amara said. They see it every day, the way you show up for them, the way you hold them together. That's love. That's what she left behind. Jin's face crumpled, and before Amara could stop herself, she crossed the room, kneeling in front of him, taking his hands in hers. You didn't fail her, she whispered. You didn't fail anyone. Jin shook his head, tears streaming down his face. Then why does it hurt so much? Because you loved her, Amara said. And love doesn't just disappear. It stays. It transforms. But it doesn't leave. Jin looked at her, really looked at her, and then he did something she didn't expect. He pulled her close. Not romantic, not desperate, just human. He held her like she was the only thing keeping him from falling apart, and Amara held him back. Because sometimes, that was enough. But the secret didn't stay buried. It came 3 days later, in the form of a letter. Amara found it by accident. She was looking for wrapping paper in Jin's study, and it was just there, on his desk, opened, the envelope torn. She shouldn't have read it. She knew that. But something in her, curiosity, fear, instinct, made her pick it up. And the words on the page shattered everything. Mr. Park, this is your final warning. The investigation into your wife's death has been reopened. New evidence suggests involvement beyond the initial accident report. You are required to appear for questioning on January 10th. Failure to comply will result in a warrant for your arrest. Sincerely, Detective Rebecca Shaw, NYPD Major Crimes Division. Amara's hands trembled. Involvement, investigation, arrest. What did that mean? You shouldn't have read that. She spun around. Jin stood in the doorway, his face pale, his expression unreadable. Jin, she began. I told you to stay away, he said, his voice flat. I told you this wouldn't end well. What does this mean? Amara demanded, holding up the letter. What really happened to your wife? Jin's jaw clenched. It was an accident. Then why are they investigating you? Because they need someone to blame, Jin said bitterly. And I'm an easy target. That's not an answer, Amara said, stepping closer. Tell me the truth. The truth? Jin laughed, hollow and broken. The truth is that my wife died in a car accident 2 years ago. And the truth is that I was supposed to be in that car. And the truth is that the police think I had something to do with it. Amara went cold. Did you? Jin's eyes flashed. How can you even ask me that? Because you won't tell me what happened, Amara shouted. You keep pushing me away. You keep saying I don't understand, but you won't let me understand. So tell me, Jin, did you have anything to do with your wife's death? Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. And then Jin spoke, his voice barely a whisper. No, but I know who did. Amara's breath caught. What? Jin looked at her, and the pain in his eyes was so deep it hurt to see. The accident wasn't random, he said. It was meant for me. Someone wanted me dead. And Yuna, she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Amara's legs nearly gave out. Who? I don't know, Jin said, but I've been trying to find out for 2 years, and now the police think I'm covering for myself. He stepped closer, his voice breaking. So yes, Amara, you're right. You don't belong here, because being near me is dangerous, and I won't let you get hurt the way she did. Amara stared at him, her heart pounding, and then she made her choice. I'm not leaving, she said. Jin's eyes widened. Amara, I'm not leaving, she repeated, her voice steady. Not until we figure this out. Together. And Jin looked at her like she was insane. Maybe she was, but she meant it. The investigation moved fast, too fast. Within days, Jin was called in for questioning. He went alone, refusing to let Amara come with him, refusing to let his daughters see him break. But when he returned, his face was ashen, his hands shaking. They have evidence, he said quietly. They were in his study, the door locked, the world outside forgotten. Amara sat across from him, her heart in her throat. What kind of evidence? Financial records, Jin said, showing I transferred money to an offshore account the week before Yuna died. They think I hired someone. But you didn't, Amara said. No, Jin said, but someone made it look like I did. Amara's mind raced. Then we prove it. We find out who set you up. Jin shook his head. You don't understand. Whoever did this, they're powerful. They're connected. If we start digging, we put targets on our backs. Then we dig carefully, Amara said. But we dig. Jin looked at her, and something in his expression cracked. Why are you doing this? He whispered. Why do you care? And Amara realized she didn't have a simple answer, because it wasn't simple. It was her sitting in a grocery store, alone on Christmas Eve, and finding 4 girls who needed someone. It was her watching Jin hold his daughters like they were his entire world. It was her realizing that for the first time in years, she wasn't invisible. She mattered. Because you're not alone anymore, she said softly. None of you are. Jin's eyes filled with tears, and then he did something she didn't expect. He kissed her, not planned, not perfect, just desperate and real and full of everything he couldn't say. And when he pulled back, his voice was broken. I can't lose you, he whispered. I can't lose anyone else. You won't, Amara promised, and she meant it. They worked in secret. Amara reached out to a lawyer she knew, a woman who specialized in corporate fraud. Jin combed through his financial records, looking for anything unusual, and slowly, carefully, the pieces began to fall into place. The offshore account wasn't his. It was created using his information, but the IP address traced back to someone else, someone inside his own company, a partner, a friend, someone Jin trusted. His name is Daniel Chen, Jin said, his voice hollow. We built the company together. I thought he was my brother. Amara's chest tightened. Why would he do this? Money, Jin said bitterly. Control, I don't know, but he wanted me out. And Yuna, she was just collateral damage. Amara reached for his hand. Then we take him down. Jin looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, there was fire in his eyes. Together? He asked. Together, Amara said. It took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of gathering evidence, building a case, navigating legal channels. 6 weeks of late nights and careful planning. 6 weeks of Jin learning to trust again, not just Amara, but himself. And when the day came, when Daniel Chen was arrested for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder, Jin stood in the police station and watched. He didn't smile, but he breathed, really breathed, for the first time in 2 years. That night, Amara found him on the porch, the same porch where he'd told her to leave, the same porch where she'd refused. "It's over," he said quietly. "It is," Amara agreed. Jin looked at her, his eyes soft, searching. "What happens now?" Amara smiled. "Now we live." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Jin reached for her hand, pulling her close. And this time, when he kissed her, it wasn't desperate. It was hope. "I love you," he whispered. And Amara, this woman who had spent so many Christmases alone, smiled. "I love you too." Inside, the girls watched from the window. Minji smiled. Sora giggled. Gia clapped her hands. And Hana, sweet, fragile Hana, whispered, "She's staying." And she was. Because some families aren't born, they're chosen. And this one was hers.